we going hard. Lights, magic sparks, and you might come past across the 6'4" chick living on five spots with a shot. You thought that's Candace Park. She may be a lady Katie, past the Christy, cool as the AC, the ice princess, no time to finish. She driving like a ride on the spot, she take crazy. WNBA sparking, loving the best 'cause they all so hard. Tonight we going hard.
Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome in to the LA Sparks 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA and your two-time WNBA champion, Los Angeles Sparks. Hello, everybody, and welcome into the two-man show of record that we like to call around here the Guys with the Petition, alongside Chris Mancy via the Google Hangout from the Earnhardt Studios in Anaheim, California. Callum McClure coming your way from Studio 171 in San Diego. Chris, good evening. How's it going, man?
Nothing much, just ready, pumped up, ready for Disneyland in 9 days, and also just also excited, just waiting until we get accepted to Awesomeness TV Network.
Yeah, Chris, we got a lot going on, folks. We'll talk about our Disneyland trip and about everything else included, folks, including how you can meet this guy over here in LA on Friday morning. But before that, folks, as we all know, even though the Sparks season has come and gone, folks, of course you can always stay current with your LA Sparks on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and in your email inbox, like the Sparks on Facebook at facebook.com/Los Angeles Sparks. Follow the Sparks on Twitter and Instagram at LA_Sparks. Pin the Sparks to your pin board on Pinterest at pinterest.com/LA Sparks, or subscribe to the team on YouTube at youtube.com/user/the Los Angeles Sparks, or register today for the LA Sparks email inbox newsletter delivered directly to your email inbox once every 2 weeks. Now, folks, we had to make an in-game substitution tonight because, unfortunately, LASparks.com did not provide us with a sparkling overseas update. We will tell you, folks, real quick, though, that we have Game 2 tomorrow morning between Candace Parker, Sandrine Gruda, and KT against Nneka Ogwumike and Dynamo Kursk tomorrow morning at about 6 a.m. Pacific time. We will have more about that when we get our next report, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Now, folks, a quick update here. Now, again, folks, with next week being Christmas Eve, folks, we are weighing options of having either sparkling overseas, folks, or if you may recall our infamous Chris's birthday hangout back in July, we may be throwing a network Christmas party on Christmas Eve. We'll see what happens. We are working out details on that, folks. We'll have more about that later on. But, folks, we had to make an in-game substitution because, again, were not given a sparkling overseas report from the team website today. But we will be talking about the 2015 Spark schedule. We'll catch up with Elena Beard and Candace Wiggins on their adventures across LA, distributing holiday cheer to the LA public. And, of course, we'll have more about how you can meet me in Los Angeles on Friday morning. We'll have more about that later on. Now, folks, as you guys may have heard, but the 2015 LA Sparks season schedule is already out, so you can make your plans, like I have, to go to a couple of games this season. The full press release, courtesy of LASparks.com, goes as follows. The Los Angeles Sparks will open up their 2015 WNBA season on Saturday, June 6th in Seattle, before returning to Los Angeles to host the Storm at Staples Center to tip off the team's 19th WNBA home season on Sunday, June 14th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The 17 Sparks home game schedule features 7 weekend games with 6 matinee contests, including the only regular season visit from Shanae Ogwumike and the Connecticut Sun on June 21st at 2 o'clock. In July, the Sparks will host 2 back-to-back home contests at Staples, with the first tipping off on Thursday, July 2nd versus the Stars, and on the following night versus Tulsa on July 3rd. The second back-to-back sets of games will wrap up the home schedule for the month of July with an ESPN televised game versus the defending champion Phoenix Mercury, followed by a 7:30 game with the New York Liberty on July 22nd. July also includes the only visit from Shoni Schimmel and the Atlanta Dream on July 16th at 12:30 in the afternoon. In August, the Lynx come to Staples Center for the final regular season match between the two teams on Tuesday, August 4th at 7. That game will also air on ESPN2 August is also highlighted by visits by Elena Delle Donne of the Chicago Sky on Sunday, August 16th, and the Stars on August 30th at 2 p.m., which also includes being the busiest month for the Sparks as they travel on a 4-game, 9-day road trip to Phoenix, San Antonio, Indiana, and Tulsa. With 4 games left in the regular season in September, the Sparks will host Washington on September 3rd and Tulsa on September 6th at home before wrapping up the season on the road in Atlanta and in Phoenix on September the 11th. The Sparks home weekday games and Friday games will tip off at 7:30 p.m., excluding those 2 games on ESPN against Phoenix on July 5th and August 4th against Minnesota at 7 o'clock. All Sunday games will tip off at 2 in the afternoon. In addition to the Sparks' 2 national television games on ESPN2, the team will play its 3rd television game on the road on June 23rd at the Mystics. The 2015 team promotion schedule and broadcast schedule on TWCSN and TWCD will be released at a later time and date. Chris, it was, I guess we were kind of uncertain, this time last year, as Kirby said a while back, good Lynx fan, Chris, he said. It was him and Tim, who's a big Sky fan, Chris, how they were a bit upset about what had happened because the schedule didn't come out this time. But, Chris, now that the schedule is out, Chris, are you a bit relieved, man, that there's nothing prohibiting the Sparks from leaving L.A. and there's no more petitions and no more shows about the Sparks leaving L.A.? Are you a bit relieved, though, the schedule is out and the team is set in stone for next season?
Yep, agreed. Just not surprised seeing who the Sparks open the season with. Just no surprise.
Chris, my 8th grade science teacher, Mr. Bob Swaggart at PB Middle School, gave me the nickname of the I forget what, I think it was the AER, the absolute eyeball roller, because of how I would remark sometimes, Chris. So he would call me the absolute EBR. He'd always roll his eyes sometimes. And Chris, this was me though when the schedule came out, because folks, in case you want to hear, this is like the 3rd or 4th year in a row the Sparks open up with the Seattle Storm, and we'll go through the schedule of games here. So, Chris, in June 6th and June 14th, yet again, it's the Seattle Storm opening up with the Sparks in Seattle on the 6th, and then back home on the 14th at 2 o'clock. Chris, okay, I get the fact it's a bit of a rivalry between LA and Seattle, but Chris, to do this still for the 4th consecutive year, man, it seems like. we know how pissed Shorty Mama 24 was when the schedule came out. But Chris, what are your thoughts here? It could have been. It can. The league, Chris, I don't know though. Does the league know if there's 11 other teams the Sparks can open up with during the course of the season, man? Or Chris, why do you think the Sparks always open up with Seattle? In my view, Chris, probably because other than the Mercury, Chris, the Storm is the closest West Coast opponent to the Sparks being up in Seattle, and it could have been Sacramento if they were there. But Chris, again, man, 4th time though, man, this has happened like 4 years in a row, Chris. What are your thoughts here about seeing the Sparks open up with the Storm for the 4th consecutive season, Chris? I think, man, at this point in time, it's like, can we play somebody else other than Seattle for once, or what do you think?
Agreed. I don't even get it. Even seeing my baseball team open up with Seattle, so it's just, I don't know. It seems like LA's just cursed open the season with Seattle, so I don't know.
Chris, be thankful there's no hockey team in Seattle, because it would have been worse with the Ducks playing the Seattle Totems or whatever. But again, folks, Sparks open up June 6th in Seattle, 6 p.m. Back home on the 14th on Sunday at 2 p.m. Then, Chris, the best part, though, about all 17 Sparks home game, Chris, they are all divided amongst homestands. 3-game homestand, 3-game homestand, 2-game homestand, 3-game, so on and so forth. Now, Chris, again, with the Sparks opening it with Seattle, they will have day off, and then, of course, Chris, welcome in Maya Moore, Lindsay Whalen, Simone Augustus, and the Western Conference finalists last year, the Minnesota Lynx, their next home game on June 16th. Now, Chris, as we had marred and ranted and raved about, Chris, again, Minnesota, again, man, at least in my view, they were not the same team. They had so many injury problems, Chris, it was unreal. Chris, it wasn't as bad as the Lakers' injury problems, Chris. It was just as bad, man. I've not seen a team that, yes, Chris, I know that Minnesota won 25 straight for the 4th straight year in their franchise history, and they've done a lot in the previous few years in 2011 and 2013. But Chris, again, man, it's about keeping those players healthy, man. That was their big, poison last year, was not getting those players healthy, Chris. Is that a reason, or Chris, actually, I should say, what is your reason as to why the Lynx struggled so much last season? Of course, got bumped out of the playoffs by the Mercury last season. Was it injuries, or what do you think it was, Chris? I think more so, man, I think everyone agrees injury problems for Minnesota. But also, Chris, it was injuries to the big puzzle pieces. Rebecca Brunson, knee injury. Simone Augustus, bursitis in her knee. What do you think, man, and why?
I think probably the injuries and everything just wasn't like the same old Lynx team that we saw dominating the league, and everything just wasn't seem like the old Lynx that we saw. It seemed like the Phoenix Mercury was the Minnesota Lynx.
Chris, that's a fair comparison. I mean, because I think, Chris, anytime you have injuries or you bring in new faces to a team that's already got that team chemistry, that chemistry seems to break away for a bit, and they don't really get it back in time. And unfortunately, Chris, that chemistry was not there for Minnesota in the postseason. Then, Chris, the first three-game homestand wraps up with the Sparks taking on Shanae Agumake and all the other rookies and second-year players, Chris, on the Connecticut Sun. And again, Chris, it was a wild and woolly last 30 seconds of that game in August in Los Angeles, Chris, capped off by a 5-0 LA run with 30 seconds left, including a putback by Candace Parker and a game-winning three by Christy Tolliver, her only basket of the game. Sparks beat the Suns 70-69, and of course, Chris, we all still talk about that game because I was at the beach in Hawaii, and Crystal had lost her shoe, and apparently people were talking about getting life alert, Chris. It was a wild game. But, Chris, with Connecticut, though, man, transition year. New faces, very young roster, no results yet. Chris, what are your thoughts about Connecticut going forward next season, Chris? Again, man, they do have a top pick here in the draft again, falling at 3 and 4. Remember, folks, the Liberty had the 3 pick, but sent that pick to Connecticut because they dealt away Tina Charles. Chris, your thoughts on Connecticut improving next season again, Chris? A lot of good talent, Chris, but again, man, inexperience too at the same time. What do you think?
I think they probably get even more greater to get better in the season, and she'll wait and see.
Then, Chris, begins the first road trip for the Sparks, 3-game roadie that will take them first to the nation's capital at 5 o'clock Eastern on ESPN against the Washington Mystics. Now, Chris, I've been in contact lately with Albert Lee a bit. Chris, Albert thinks that the Mystics may be one of those teams that might tank to lose games to get Breanna Stewart in the draft next season in 2016. And, Chris, he also feels that perhaps Aubrey Lotta might be on her way out from Washington, too, because she's not really a franchise player. But, Chris, the Mystics, though, Mike Tebow is probably one of the better coaches right now in the W. He's got, he's the all-time winningest coach across Connecticut and out of Washington. But, Chris, there are question marks, though, about Ivory, about Monique Curry and those banged-up knees, Chris. And also that, and Chris, even Albert told me that the Mystics don't really have that person you can brand to the people in D.C. They don't have that, Chris, they don't really have that franchise star. They don't have a Candace Parker or a Diana Taurasi or a Sue Bird or a Maya Moore. They don't have that kind of player to market to their fan base in D.C. Chris, there was their own petition because they had heard thoughts and heard rumors about them leaving Verizon Center for a new practice facility somewhere in D.C. So, Chris, a lot going on with the Mystics this year. But, Chris, what are your thoughts, though, about them last year? It came in, they got the UConn studs of Bria Harley and Stephanie Dolson, kind of slugged their way into the playoffs, got beat in 2 games by Indiana. Chris, any thoughts of improvement, or your thoughts, though, too, about how they've kind of been in some hot water, though, too, about possibly moving out of their own arena to a different spot, again, and also Chris, kind of having no identity. Again, Chris, not really having that franchise poster child that you can put, on a billboard somewhere in D.C. What do you think?
I think, like you said, they're probably going to tank. They'll probably get Breanna Stewart in 2016 in the draft to get a great player, and we should see.
And again, Chris, it's kind of tough, though, for a franchise like Washington, Chris, who's been here since '98. They led the WNBA in attendance for their first 5 years in the W. Again, Chris, they really don't have that person of interest / that poster child, Chris. They don't have a Junior Seau or a Tony Gwynn or a Candace Parker or Lisa Leslie, Chris, on their roster. So it's a bit tough, in my view, Chris, to have a team like that where you don't really have that identifiable person or that one person that everyone likes. Again, Chris, they don't have a CP3 or a DT3 or a Sue Bird. Chris, they don't really have that person to really market. Again, Ivory has been that person, but again, there's thoughts that there's talk of her possibly leaving for somewhere else because of her contract issue. So again, we'll have to just see about what happens with Washington. And then Chris, the road trip goes from Washington to Connecticut. Then of course, Chris, there's that other team searching for a head coach, Chris, and that is the Sparks' longtime Eastern Conference rivals, Chris, the New York Liberty, on June 28th at 12 noon in New York at MSG. Chris, they've been going through a lot right now. Bill Laimbeer, na-na-na-na, hey, goodbye. He could be coming to L.A. for all that we know, Chris. There's a lot going on about him coming to Los Angeles. Doubt that happens. But, of course, Chris, they also have no GM and no head coach, Chris. And I know that there's been a lot going on about Katie Smith being promoted to head coach. Teresa Witherspoon could be in line, Chris. And, of course, with their roster between Cap and basically, Chris, the entire 2003 or 2008 Detroit Shock team on that team, with Plannette Pearson and everyone else included, Chris. Chris, let's start, though, with Bill Laimbeer again, Chris, who, again, his luck ran out, unfortunately, Chris. And, again, Chris, I know that you despise his guts as much as I hate his guts, too. But, again, I think, though, man, that after Detroit, not the same kind of coach and same GM, Chris, again, players got older, players left, players were injured, stuff included, Chris. Were you at all surprised, man, about New York letting Bill Laimbeer go at all, Chris? Or what was your initial reaction, I guess, to hearing about Bill Laimbeer being fired by the New York Liberty?
I was just no surprise. It would have happened. Yeah, just no surprise.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, no surprise. And, Bill had not, and, really Bill had not been working wonders with the Liberty, Chris. Again, I know that he brought in basically every former player of his with the Shock back to New York, and again, it just didn't work out very well, and again, a lot of injuries and a lot of problems with their depth. So again, Chris, we'll wait and see. But again, I say Katie Smith or Teresa Witherspoon is next GM and head coach of the New York Liberty. Chris, as we make our way to July, Chris, another 3-game homestand beginning on July 2nd with the San Antonio Stars. And again, Chris, this is a major year of transition for the Stars, Chris, for 2 reasons. No Becky Hammon, and a new arena. Now, folks, again, they're not getting kicked out of AT&T Center this summer, but, folks, like we saw with the Liberty and MSG, AT&T Center will be renovated during the 2015 summer, so they will be playing their games at the Freeman Coliseum in Freeman, Texas. Chris, obvious point, though, Chris, there is no veteran leadership now, Chris. Your vet, your star, your poster child, Chris. No more Becky Hammon. She is on the sidelines in her awesome-looking dresses with Greg Popovich, mocking his facial impersonations on the Spurs bench, trying to get that team to a 2015 NBA title. Chris, how much will her absence really, though, affect the Stars going forward in the future?
Gonna be a very huge miss without Becky Hammon on the court for the Stars. Just gonna be very different.
Chris, one of our diehard fans, Jerry Witherspoon, posted in the group on Facebook today, Chris, saying that if you love her or hate her, you got to love what she's done. And, Chris, the story, though, that really speaks, though, Chris, about Becky, again, undrafted and went to Colorado State, Chris, who is not even on the women's basketball map, dude. They're not even, they're not a women's basketball juggernaut, Chris. For her being undrafted, goes to CSU, then goes to New York, Chris, and basically, leads that team to glory. All of it's, falling over in the playoffs and the finals against Houston in Los Angeles in 2002. Then Chris goes to San Antonio, Chris, and basically, is San Antonio's favorite daughter for, 15 years of her career, Chris. So again, without her being there. Else, Chris, as we said, man, we know about the Mystics rumored to leave their place, but Chris, again, the Stars will be leaving AT&T Center for renovations again. So Chris, again, man, I know Chris, that I was very upset about this when we were talking about this during the finals this past year or past season about the Sky being booted out of Allstate Arena for the UIC Pavilion on the campus of University of Illinois Chicago. Chris, I know, man, that there's a lot of things that go wrong about the WNBA in regards to the arena, Chris. But again, man, how much so does the arena venue hurt the Stars next season for them not playing at the phone booth that is AT&T Center in San Antonio?
Just very different. Not playing in the arena. And yeah.
So again, a couple of major losses for the Stars. No Becky Hammond and no AT&T Center to their advantage either this season. Then, Chris, the next game on that three-game homestand is a back-to-back with Odyssey Sims, Skylar Diggins, and the Tulsa Shock, who, Chris, okay, man, they're making slow progress. Again, we know that when they left Detroit for Tulsa, they went 3-31 in their first season in Tulsa, Chris, and gradually it's been slowly on the incline, Chris. Kind of, man, think of it this way. They're slowly going up as slow as we're going to be going on Space Mountain next Thursday at Disneyland, Chris. They've been going this way very slow, Chris, and trying their best to get there. And Chris nearly got in the back door this past season. But again, still though, Chris, young, inexperienced roster, no real vets, Chris. What do you expect, though, from Skylar Diggins and Odyssey Sims next season with the Tulsa Shock?
I think they should be great for the Tulsa Shock. And should be probably maybe a dynamic duo, perhaps, maybe.
Okay, Chris, brace yourself for the next game on Sunday, July 6th, or 5th, I should say. The Sparks welcome in the longtime foes of the WNBA Western Conference, the team that I picked to win the WNBA title, the team that Chris did not pick to win the title. That is the Purple and Orange. That is my other girl, Diana Taurasi. That is the Phoenix Mercury. Chris, again, man, we will probably, Chris, never see a season, probably, Chris, in any pro sport ever again like we saw with the Mercury this past season. Chris, again, man, 29-5, 16 straight wins, losing all but one game at U.S. Airways Center, now Talking Stick Resort Arena. Good God with that name. Chris, any luck for L.A. against the Purple and Orange next season, or are you going to take my advice and chalk us up as L's? What do you think?
I support my Sparks, and I got faith, and I know Crystal's probably laughing right now because I know she's watching, and I pick to beat the Mercury.
How does that not surprise me? And Jess, my friend who operates the DT Bun page on Twitter, if you're watching, I got your back for those few games. Then, Chris, another three-game road trip to San Antonio, Tulsa, Seattle for 3. Then, Chris, in comes Shoni Schimmel and the Atlanta Dream for a Thursday afternoon game on July 16th. Now, Chris, Atlanta last season, wow, what happened to that team, Chris? They played well, but Chris, booted out of the first round by Shorty Mamba 24's Chicago Sky in the first round. Chris, honestly, man, I don't know if Michael Cooper has any more Sparks magic left in his back pocket from the 01-02 season to be coaching the WNBA anymore, Chris. But again, man, he is a good option, though, for anybody. And, Chris, we know, though, man, there's been talk, though, about Magic talking to Coop to come coach the Sparks next season. Good grief if that happens. We got Showtime apparently re-sparking again next season, apparently in 2015. Chris, Atlanta, though, man, they have, oh my goodness, their playoff problems, Chris, are way worse than the Sparks' playoff problems. Again, we know about them going to the finals for 3 straight years and then getting dumped by Seattle and Minnesota twice. And this year, you know, getting upset by the Chicago Sky in 3 games, Chris. What, though, man, was the problem, though, for Atlanta in the postseason, though, this season as opposed to previous years where it was to the finals, but they busted up their hand, though, trying to get the WNBA title? What do you think went wrong, though, and why?
I think probably just got tired and just couldn't handle it in the playoffs and with the new coach and just ran out of gas in the playoffs.
But Chris, we still wish our boy Michael Cooper the best with Atlanta, though. We know he is. With Atlanta, he still is a Laker and Spark at heart. Then again, and then Chris, Chris, 5 days off between their next game. Then of course, and folks, get you wondering, the first game I will be going to. Sorry, Chris, you can't make it though. Sorry, Chris, you can't go though because I've already locked in a few seats for me. That'll be on Tuesday, July 21st versus Phoenix. Good grief, here we go again. And then on then a back-to-back, Phoenix at home and then New York at home. And then a 3-game road trip to round out July and August and begin August at Minnesota. Then, Chris, there is the Cinderella team from this past season, the Chicago Sky, July 31st. Oh, boy, Chris, it's in Chicago. And we know what happened this past season in Chicago. But, Chris, the bigger story, though, Chris, is the tremendous glory run by the Sky to the WNBA Finals. Chris picked against by everybody. You, me included, picked against Chicago in that opening round, and then after that they captivated our hearts and enriched our souls to believe in them, Chris. And again, man, they did this without Elena Deladon for about half the year because of Lyme disease, and of course, Chris, the finals without her because of back problems. Chris, what would you say about how great of a season the Chicago Sky played last season? Again, Chris, improbable run. We may not see another run like that again where they were, the odds were stacked against them. Again, facing Atlanta, round one, then going through Indiana, then, of course, Chris, that brick wall right there, the Phoenix Mercury, Chris. What would you say about how great and how fun that season was for the Chicago Sky and their fan base this past season?
Just had like a never say die, quit in the playoffs, just pretty much like the Royals this season. Just miracle season.
Chris, miracle seasons are so fun. I mean, Chris, you can look at miracle seasons, at least with the 1984 Padres, again, a team that, had won that finished in second place in the NL West, and then, Steve Garvey hits a walk-off homer, and it goes from there in Game 5 in San Diego. The 98 team also was a Cinderella team, not picked by anybody to beat Houston, who won 106 games who had won 110 games that season. Not picked to beat the Braves, who won 102 games that season. They got through them, without any problem. And of course, a better team than the 160-win Yankees beat them in the World Series. And of course, there's the 0-2 Angels, a wild card team, that no one really gave a shot to. They beat the Yankees in the DS, smoked the Twins in the ALCS, and of course, got past the Giants in the 0-2 World Series. So of course, Chris, miracle runs are so fun to have, man. And that was what the Chicago Sky gave their fan base this season. Then, of course, if we go towards later in the year, Chris, then August 18th, the Sparks take on the Indiana Fever. Now, of course, Chris, there's a bit of transition too with the Fever as well going forward. There is no Lynn Dunn. And also, Chris, this is the second to last time we'll see Tamika Catchings play in the WNBA. Of course, Chris, she announced in the offseason she would be retiring in 2016. Chris, what do you think, though, man? Again, Catch has been that veteran leader for the Fever, but of course, Chris, your thoughts, though, Chris, about a new coach with the Fever now with Lynn Dunn being gone, Chris. How much will her absence be for Indiana next season?
Just gonna seem different without Lynn Dunn as the head coach, and Tamika Catching gonna be retiring, and just gonna seem different.
Chris, in case you were wondering, Crystal did tweet into the show. She said, "I'm not laughing, but she says I'm not laughing. I have faith too, though, Chris. LOL." So, in case you're wondering about the statement you made about the Sparks facing the Mercury this season, so she's not laughing at you, Chris, but she does though have faith in the Sparks, though, beating the Mercury at least once next season. We hope so. Other than that, Chris, there is not much else to get to with the schedule. But again, folks, to find out more about the schedule, log on to LASparks.com and print off your copy of the 2015 Sparks schedule. Again, folks, Sparks open up the season on June 6th in Seattle. Good grief once more again. Seattle, Washington's where the Sparks open up the season. And, of course, the home opener the next Sunday, June 14th, against Seattle at 2 in the afternoon. Chris, as we go now to the community aspect of the story here, Chris, of course, man, we know of how busy Elena Beard and my girl, Candace Williams, have been over the past few weeks. Chris, they've been spreading Holiday cheer across Los Angeles. Again, man, a lot has happened with the Sparks and the community, of course. They've been giving back in so many great ways across the latter part of the last couple of weeks. We've had the team have their own community appearances. So much has happened from clinics to hospital visits, to meet and greets with former Dodger players, Christmas parties. Chris, so much has gone on with Elena and Candace. Folks, to find out more, again, just log on to lasparks.com for more information. Chris, as you know, man, I've kind of stole your thunder on Wednesday post on Instagram with Wiggins Wednesdays. And the photo I had today was, of course, when Candace Wiggins won the WNBA Community Assist Award in 2011 with the Lynx, Chris. And Chris, this is the best time of the year. Chris, this is the best time of the year, though, man, to help, to lend a hand in the community, Chris, to help someone in need. Of course, the holidays are about their impact on your life. Of course, the holidays, of course, with Christmas and Hanukkah going on, and Kwanzaa and everything else coming up. Chris, I even told this to Wiggs a couple days ago, Chris, is I just love, though. I mean, Chris, it's one deal for athletes to be in the community, Chris, but it's so much better and brighter to see them helping the community, Chris, during the holiday season, whether it's feeding the homeless with, hot meals, giving them beds, or, Chris, whatever it is, man, and of course, during the holiday season, it's Chris, I look at it this way, Chris, it's so much better, so much brighter, so much more great, and so much, and it's a lot, Chris. It's so fun, though, to see that pro athletes give back to the community, and of course, Chris, when they do it over the holiday season, it's so much better, Chris. Your thoughts about Chris, your thoughts about seeing your thoughts about seeing the Sparks interacting so great with the LA community are what?
Just very great. See the Sparks in the community and just helping out in the community. Just very great to see.
Yeah, of course, and Chris, I believe today was the final day that the Sparks had some sort of community appearance today. They've had a lot going on, and everything else included, so we'll see what occurs out of it. But again, folks, expect more from Elena and Candace over the rest of the off season sometime soon. Now, folks, Candace actually did have the schedule for the events on her website, and there was nothing scheduled for the rest of the week. Now, folks, that leads me to a kind of a rare / exclusive chance to meet me in person. If you've not met me in person yet, and you do want to do so, folks, I am making a trip to Los Angeles on Friday morning around 10 a.m. to go to visit my broadcasting school up in LA to see where I stand with my course curriculum, and also a little bit of a small school Christmas party is happening. So I'll be there from about 10 to noon probably. We will post the details about that after the show ends. So if anyone out there wants to come hang with me for a bit, you're more than welcome to up there in LA. And of course, Chris, there is some pretty major event happening next Thursday from 8 a.m. to like 10 o'clock. And I think, Chris, let everyone know what in the world is going on next Thursday, the day after Christmas, in your backyard.
Come home.
What?
Come home.
Let everyone know what in the world is going on in your backyard next Thursday at some place in Anaheim, California you've been pumped to go to since the start of this month.
Wait, what's going on?
I think it's some place called Disneyland, bro. Are you that brain dead right now?
Is it Thursday?
Whenever it is, bro. Let everyone know what's going on, though, in your backyard and everything else included. Go for it.
Oh, next week on Friday, the 26th. Oh, that rings a bell too. The 26th. My birthday, my backyard, myself, and that dude over there, Callan. We're going to Disneyland, and just so pumped up. I already got my ticket, so yeah, here we go. Disneyland, 9 days.
Folks, you have no idea how tough it's been to sit and talk with this guy on FaceTime for the past couple days, because it's been getting a bit out of control, but it's all in fun. Again, folks, if you're going to be there next Friday, come holler at us, please. I'm not wearing no Sparks attire. No, Chris might wear some Sparks attire. We'll see what happens. But in any case, folks, again, next Friday, I should say, not next Thursday. When you got freaking things you're doing all the time. You lose track of days of the week. So Friday, the 26th, we'll be at Disneyland, of course, folks. If you're going to be in LA on Friday, come see me on West 5th Street in downtown LA. Players that are in LA included to come visit as well. That would be Beard and Ice Ice, Too Cold, Too Cold. Chris, with that, man, as we invite, Chris, on that note, as we do invite Elena Beard and Ken Sweeps to my broadcasting school Christmas party on Friday at the West 5th Street Studios in LA. Chris, as we get ready to wrap up here for the night, man, your last thoughts on the schedule and the course as well. Anything else you want to get to as we get ready to wrap up here for the night?
Just no surprise seeing the Sparks open up the season with the Seattle Storm and everything. Just waiting for that email that says I got accepted and welcome to the Awesomeness TV network.
Oh, with that, folks, we will call it a night and call it a week. Now, folks, this just popped in my head, though, unfortunately, is I will not be in studio on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I'm going to be actually staying over with my grandfather who had the stroke back a few months ago. So we will, again, folks, we're thinking about it, folks, but again, look for a possible Google Hangout Christmas party that we had for Chris's birthday back in July. I'll have Shorty, Crystal, myself, Chris, and any other Spark fans who want to join here on our network Christmas party on Google Hangout. With that, folks, until next Tuesday when we have our Christmas party, have a safe night, drive home safely. Thank you all for coming, and good night now. This has been the LA Sparks 365 Network. We are Sparks, we are LA, and we are the WNBA. See you folks next Tuesday for the final time in 2015, perhaps. We will figure out that time later on. But, of course, folks, again, this Friday I'll be in LA at the West 5th Street Studios. Come over there and meet me, including you, Elena, and Candace. And we'll see you guys probably as well next Friday, maybe at Disneyland in Anaheim, California. See you folks sometime soon. We'll see you folks back here on the network on Tuesday. We'll see some of you maybe on Friday, on both this Friday, next Friday, in LA and in the Orange County area. See you folks later. Bye-bye.